Hey, you've found your way to Homebrewer TV. We're glad you could join us. We're going to have some fun today. Our tasting room, we're going to the dark side. Yes, indeed, some Imperial Stouts is what we're going to try out today. And then I want to ask you, do you remember when you did your first homebrew? We all have been there, haven't we? Our very first time of brewing. Well, we're going to get into that today also. So, you stay with us. We're going to have some fun. Do you remember when you first decided to brew a batch of beer? Well, I have to admit, I can remember back, well, sort of that far. And I also have to admit, my first attempt at making beer was a Mr. Beer kit. And it was a dismal failure because the beer tasted terrible. However, it didn't take long to realize it's really what I wanted to do, and brewing beer had to become part of my life. So I went out and found the local home brewer, and he sold me what I needed. So let's talk a little bit about that today. Well, my local home brewer supply set me up with a bunch of things, and it really is a lot simpler than it seems. So let's kind of go over a few of the components that you are going to want for your first brew. Now, prices are going to range from $75 on up, so check around. There are some great online places to buy brewing equipment also. Just a thought. Well, the first thing you got to have is some big old buckets. Now, these buckets are for a couple things. One's to ferment your beer, which is going to be sitting there for a while, gurgling away, and you'll understand what that is when we see it. And the other bucket is for bottling. You're also going to have a couple other pieces that you're going to have with you. This goes on top of your fermenter. It keeps air from going inside, but allows the carbon dioxide during fermentation to escape. I like this style versus something of this type. You'll see them both. This one, I just like it better. I think it's easier to clean. Along with that, you're going to need a brush that comes with the kit. Cleans the inside of bottles. You're going to have a siphon of some sort. This will be siphoning beer out of the fermenter, putting it into the bottling bucket. Once it's in the bottling bucket, you'll be transferring it to bottles. And this little piece is what is used for that. It has a valve at the bottom, so you slide it into a bottle. When it reaches the bottom of the bottle, it opens up the valve, allowing it to fill. This keeps oxygen out of your brew so it stays better. You will have to have caps, and most kits come with about 144 caps and a capper to put them on the bottle. Hose that moves from place to place with your brew and hooks into the different components. It's really all you need for your basic first brew, with a couple little exceptions. One thing is you've got to boil your brew for a while. Now, I'm going to guess if you're a first-time brewer, you're probably going to be on your kitchen stove, if you're loud. Well, you need a pot. So what I use, let's get a couple of these things a little bit further out of the way. Big old pot. This basically holds about 3.5 gallons. Yes, I know we're going to be making a 5-gallon batch, but hang with me, you'll understand why we can use this. So we've got our big bucket. We need something to stir with. Good old wooden spoon or a stainless steel spoon works perfect. When you're done brewing and fermenting, you're going to need to put your beer somewhere. So start collecting some bottles. I like the brown bottles best. That doesn't let light through, which light can degrade the taste of your beer. I like the brown bottles. Find what you like to drink and have an excuse to have to drink some extra beers because you're saving the bottles. Finally, for your very first brew, you're going to need something to brew. Well, again, you can head down to your local home brewer supply, and they will oftentimes have a good kit that you can use for your first brew. There's so much to go on in deciding what to put into a beer brew that a good kit will help you get started without having to worry about all the other aspects, which we of course we will be getting into in other episodes. So let me show you what we're going to brew next time. And it's really quite simple. We start out with good old syrup. This is basically a distilled down and condensed sugars that come from grain. That goes into the brew pot and gets boiled, along with some hops. When they're done with that, and everything is ready to go in the fermenter, you're going to add your yeast. Now for this particular situation, the homebrew place sent me off with dry yeast, which works just fine, particularly for your first brew. So I think that kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to need to do our first brew together. We're going to have some fun, and let me tell you, you're going to be so surprised at how good it tastes. And don't worry about a thing. We'll work through it. I'll see you next time on Beer U. Well, here we are again in the tasting room. Glad you could join us. Someone has to do this horrible job of tasting beer, and I'm only doing it for you. Well, maybe not. We've got two beers on the dark side today. Imperial Stouts. And I am a dark beer drinker, but I don't like nasty dark beer that's too hoppy. So, let's get started on some of this beer. We're going to use our normal beer score sheets, and you can find the scores on our website to the different beers that we're tasting. The first one we're trying today is Pt.1 Imperial Stout. This is brewed in a little town in Idaho, and it certainly looks pretty. Let's give it a go. Okay, not a great smell, but not bad. Let's have a little sample here. Well, it's a very pretty beer. I'll give it credit, nice and dark. Not a great head. The smell, the aroma, it's okay. But I'm having to really push it to get a good grain smell. So, I'm not pleased with that at all, but I love Imperial Stout, so I'm excited about trying this. So, for this one, as far as its aroma, on a scale of 1 to 12, I'm going to give it an 8. Its appearance, as we all know, appearance 1 to 3, cares. As long as it doesn't look like it's got mold and stuff on it. Its appearance, we'll just give it a 2. Now for the big part, the flavor. Isn't that what beer is all about? Flavor. So let's see what this is going to do for us. Well, I have to admit this is letting me down. I expected a much bolder taste. I want something that's really, that just grabs me. And the hops seem to be almost too much. The hops is overpowering the grain taste that I'm after. Well, I was excited about this beer, and I think I've lost my excitement. I mean, yes, it's a nice dark beer, but I really wanted more. And also, I have a definite hops aftertaste. Now, I love hops like the next guy. Give me a great IPA, I want the flavor of those hops. I can be a hophead with the rest of you. But there's sometimes, particularly in really good dark beers, I don't want that real heavy hop aftertaste. I want to have the sweet grain, the fragrance of hops, but without the bitterness that stays in my mouth. So I'm going to have to go with this as far as the flavor on a scale of 1 to 20. I'm only going to give it a 9. As far as its mouthfeel, well, it's got a nice carbonation, but it's not a big scale. Scale of 1 to 5, I'm giving it a 3. We're just going to have an average. So my overall impression with this beer is, I guess I'm disappointed. I wanted more, and it's not delivering that. So my overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm just going to give it an average of a 5. And that works us out to 27 on a scale of 50. I really wanted more. Well, our next beer today comes from a little town in Northern California that is one of my favorite places to go visit, Fort Bragg. And they have their own brewery there. I've had their own draft, and it's quite good. And they do what's called Old Rasputin Imperial Stout. I'm excited about this because I have tasted some of their other beers and really liked them. I hope this follows through, particularly being the Imperial Stout it is. So let's get started. Well, again, it's a beautiful beer. I mean, most dark beers are. Can't see through it. It looks very nice. It's got a pretty good head. How's the aroma? Now, I can really smell the grains in here. It smells wonderful, and I'm not being overpowered by a hop smell. This smells lovely. So, let's give it some scores. On its aroma, on a scale of 1 to 12, I'm going to give it a 9. As far as its appearance, yeah, you know how I am with appearance. I don't care what it looks like as long as it tastes great. So I'm going to give that a 2. Now we'll try out the flavor. And I am waiting for this. I want this one to be good. This is delicious. This is what I want a big beer to taste like, particularly an Imperial Stout. It has got all kinds of wonderful grain flavors. I can feel or taste the crystal in this. It has hops. The hops are not overpowering at all. They're just there in the right quantity. This is a delicious beer. And normally we share the beer with the crew. I'm not sure I'm going to share this one. So as far as flavor is concerned, I'm going to give this, out of 20, a 17. Its mouthfeel is really quite nice. Carbonation rolls off the tongue very well. The flavors are wonderful. The hops are not killing my palate. I like this. Scale of 1 to 5, I'm giving it a 4. So overall, my impression of this beer is quite good. I'm really enjoying this. So my overall impression out of a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it an 8. So it looks like we have a score here of, well, a 40 out of 50. Scored well. This is a delicious beer. I think you will enjoy it if you enjoy big beers. And an Imperial Stout is supposed to be a big beer. So, Old Rasputin. did not fail. Hey, thanks for joining me. Give it a try. Give them both a try. I'd love to hear what you think about the beers. Leave it in the comments box below. We'll see you next week when we try out some other beers in the tasting room. Thanks for joining us here at Homebrewer TV. We're so glad you could join us and have a good time as much as we did. Hope you enjoy the brews we talked about. Give them a try. I want to hear about what you think about the beers, because we all know tastes are a real personal thing. And we're going to be doing a little more brewing next week when we get into our beginner's kit. And of course, down the road, we're going to be doing some all-grain brewing. We're going to be doing some big beers, and we're just going to have some fun. So you just join us next time on Homebrewer TV.